Well, coming into the program in '82, I knew none of the kids, and so you didn't know what to expect. You didn't know what you had, and so actually it was a very surprising group of kids, and you know, I don't know what the expectations were, but the chemistry of the team really came together, and you know, the momentum kind of built as the season went on, and it was just really neat to see the confidence level of those
and went
kids.
Undefeated and coming into Paso de Robles, and I'm sure some of the other guys have talked about that. They no longer play ball in CIF organizations, and as you probably have shared, some of those kids were older.
That was only our second year of football, and so anyway, we second round we had to play a prison school called Paso Robles, and we had to drive up there. I forget how long the drive was, but it was a long drive.
Up there, and the coaching staff, we went on a trip over to the school to meet the administrator was the warden, and when we got over there, the warden took us on a tour and showed us the whole campus, showed us where we'll be, and showed us what we had to do. And he's talking about things like, you know, 85% of their population was in there for murder or rape. He said this is a maximum security prison. As we drove up to the school, we get up to and they told us, you know, come up to this certain gate, ring the doorbell. It was like a gate bell, and they came. They had a guard that came, and they, just like you see it in movies. I mean, it was just hilarious. It was one guard came on the bus and went up and down and looked at everybody and checked everything out, the seats and who was in the bus, and kind of eyeballed everybody. And they had a mirror going underneath the bus, you know, just like you see in the movies.
Just entering into the complex was pretty incredible. Could have heard a pin drop in the bus, just the clanks of the gates as they opened up and clanks coming down. It was very well known that the kids were in there not for just your ordinary stuff. They were in there for murder, rape, hardcore felons, and that's who we were going to go in and play a ball game with. And so it was pretty intimidating.
Well, you pull up, and this is a prison, you know, maximum security prison for teenagers, and some of the kids are even 19, 20 years old.
Robles, it was a prison school, so we pull up on on the bus, and you've got the barbed wire fences, the block walls. I remember when the bus pulls up, a guy gets on the bus and he has a shotgun in his hand, and we're just kind of like, whoa, this is real. this isn't a day camp. This is a prison school, you know.
As we pull in, there's about 300 guys in the yard playing basketball. And I don't know what, I guess just the play yard or whatever, but so as we all kind of looked over, oh, that's kind of cool, look, they're all playing, and as we all looked over, we had 300 guys sending us the bird, and our guys were kind of looking at him like, oh, man, coach, you know, did you see? And so already we're kind of looking at him like, uh-oh, what is this about?
They take us down to the gymnasium, and so I believe one of the prison guards come in or in charge and says, look, we're going to take you in our gymnasium. You are not allowed to go outside those gymnasium doors.
I remember as we're warming up, all of a sudden we look on the sidelines, and there's like almost 100 guys on the sidelines. They're probably close to 70, probably 70 to 100 guys suited up. And we're like, where did they get all these guys? And then it dawned on us that, you know what, these are the kids that you play in the prison. And I mean, it was like an army. They had an army.
When the guys took the field, I was on the opposite side of the field filming the game, and I remember seeing how few guys that we had on the field, which would basically, if all our guys stood shoulder to shoulder, it would probably take up maybe 5 to 10 yards at the most on the field, even with the coaches at the ends. You know, we'd probably take up 10 yards at the most. And I remember seeing the other team's sidelines, and they must have had at least 3 strings of people. I mean, it was just like almost like an entire row all the way down the field of guys. And I just thought, man, this is going to be a rough game. You know, I mean, number one, it's a prison school. These guys are made to hit people. You know, they're just wanting to hurt somebody. You know, and at the same time, they've got fresh meat to go in every single play. You know, and
we had I think we brought up 13 guys that night, and right off the bat, one of them, Ross, he sprains his ankle during warm-up, so he's out. You know, he's out of the game. And then in the very first or second play of the game, Chris, I think it was Chris Burke broke his arm, and so we lost, you know, a tight end and a defensive player, because we played both ways. And so we're down to like 11 players now, two plays into the game. But this thing was just a crazy war. It was physical. I don't think we've seen it. To this day, I don't know if I've seen a more physical game overall as this one. Even, you know, coaching now at 4 different schools, and it was just a battle and back and forth. And at halftime, I think it was like 6-0, and then we let them score right before half. They scored, and so I think it was 7-6 at halftime. And but it was just brutal. Everybody was beaten up. But I tell you what, by that time we had come together as a group. All those things that we battled early, that we talked about in 1980, we had come together as a family, and we had our philosophy embedded in our kids, and our kids knew that they fought to the end, and our kids, like I said, they were all back, and they all just understood where we were coming from, what our program was about, and they weren't going to give up in this game. And they just kept sending in new guys. They just kept sending in fresh bodies. Ran out of gas, and they beat us, I think it was 41-6, something like that, and our season was over. But I tell you what, that game, looking back, you know, is probably one of the biggest points in the history of the school, football-wise, and it probably bled off on a whole athletic program, because it was something that everybody remembered as a war. I remember people in the stands. I remember Chad Nirenberg was our ball boy, and he was a tough little snot. You know, he never got worked up about anything. And I remember he went up in the stands. He's usually on the sidelines with us. He actually went up in the stands, and he had tears in his eyes, and he was crying. And they asked him what was wrong, and he said, "Oh, my boys are all getting hurt down there." And I mean, if you see, there's blood, and we're limping, and everything you can imagine. I mean, we just kept getting up, and it was almost like, as coaches, you could walk up and down the sidelines, and I remember looking at Big John's eyes, and he had tears coming down his cheek all the way down, you know, dripping off his beard, and Ron and me and Mark at that time had come on. Mark Stamper had come on, and the coaches, man, we were all in tears, because it was a thing of almost like we wanted our kids to stay down, don't get up. Yeah, but we only had 11 kids left, and I think when we left there, when playable, 9 guys, you know, but it was like, as our guys would get hit, or we would hit them, you know, you're like, stay down, dude, because you wouldn't think they'd get up. And we just kept getting up, we kept going at it. And when that game was over, it was a mutual respect of a bunch of guys that had been in there for making huge mistakes in their lives against these nice little Christian high school boys, you know.
Man,